Assalamualaikum Waalaikumsalam. Assalamualaikum
Waalaikumsalam.
Assalamualaikum
Waalaikumsalam.
Assalamualaikum Waalaikumsalam.
Hello and welcome to a new edition of our program, Peace Be Upon You. And in this edition of our program, we are picking up where we left in the previous episodes, addressing the relationship between international humanitarian law and Islamic jurisprudence. And today we are joined by our dear guest, Dr. Hussein Al-Din Alam, lecturer of international humanitarian law. Good afternoon, sir.
Good afternoon, and thank you so much for having me.
Sir, can you tell us more about the sacredness or holiness of human life in Islam?
Yeah, this is definitely a very important, relevant question in this regard, especially in view and in light of all the previously mentioned very important points, I think, when it comes to the sacredness, or if you like, the inviolability of the human life, or the holiness even of the human life, we find many verses in this regard in the Noble Quran. For instance, the very well-known verse, and which, as a matter of fact, affirms and confirms the guidance or the message of all prophets and messengers, and how is it? The Quran makes it very obvious and crystally clear that taking one innocent life unjustly is as if it is an attempt or a crime of taking the lives of all human beings.
Yes.
And on the contrary, saving or doing one's best and effort to save one human life is equal to saving the lives of all of the humanity, or of all human beings. So when we, as a matter of fact, pause in order to think and reflect beyond the magnitude of how powerful this noble Quranic verse, which I repeat, is a confirmation of the revelation that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the one and only creator, has revealed and provided to all previous prophets and the messengers, that taking one innocent human life unjustly, i.e. for no just reason or cause, is equal in its horror, is equal in its barbarity, is equal in its cruelty to taking unjustly the lives of all human beings. And on the other hand, saving one human life is equal and comparable to saving all the lives of all human beings. And this is to manifest and to exhibit in very clear and obvious, unequivocal terms the importance of protecting, respecting, and maintaining the sanctity of each and every human life. This is why we clearly see in the Noble Quran the emphasis also on how many of these related and relevant verses and many of the chapters of the Noble Quran, they start with a call not only to Muslims or not only to the believers, but rather the Quran provides its guidance to all humanity and to all human beings by clearly stating, Ya ayyuhan nas, O mankind,
Yes.
O humanity, in order to highlight this commonality that we all as human beings have together, and that's our sense of humanity. In relation to this, furthermore, we read in the Noble Quran the prohibition of killing innocent lives, and how is it? It is a reason for abiding in hellfire for eternity, and there is nothing that can be done in order to expiate for the sin of taking an innocent life unjustly. And this is why the teachings of the Prophet, peace be upon him, and Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, in this regard are also very profound and very heart-touching. So, for instance, we read in the authentic teachings of the Prophet, peace be upon him, that one, if not the very first thing that will be judged on the Day of Judgment is shedding blood. This will be the first thing that all the people will be held accountable for on the Day of Judgment. So of course we know how very serious and very critical the situation on the Day of Judgment or on the Day of Justice or the Day of Ultimate Justice, and the very first thing that the people will be held accountable for is the inviolability and the sacredness of the life of a human being.
Dear viewers, short break and we'll be back, so stay tuned.
ولقد كرمنا بني آدم وحملناهم في البر والبحر ورزقناهم من الطيبات وفضلناهم على كثير ممن خلقنا تفضيلا.
In the name of Allah, the most merciful, the most compassionate. And we have certainly honored the children of Adam and carried them on the land and sea, and provided for them of the good things, and preferred them over much of what we have created, with preference. Islam considers that preserving life necessitates that one should take care of one's health, promote causes of one's well-being, and care for one's senses, body, and body parts. A body capable of performing its duties and fulfilling its various responsibilities is one of the greatest blessings. One of the prayers of the Prophet, peace and blessings be upon him, is, O Allah, let us enjoy our hearing, our sight, and our power as long as you keep us alive, and make this also to our heirs. This supplication shows that the Prophet, peace be upon him, prays to Allah for keeping these faculties, namely hearing, sight, and power, intact as long as our souls remain in our bodies. He also prays that our children inherit us after we die and not the other way round. He does not like that these faculties collapse while we are still alive. The soul is an invaluable asset and has been honored by Islam, which has never humiliated it. Rather, it has cherished and upheld it so as to accomplish its mission in life.
He created the plants and trees. He created the birds and bees. He created the oceans and seas. Some of his many bounties.
Welcome back, dear viewers, and we are still hosting Dr. Hossein Eddin Alem, Lecturer of International Humanitarian Law, and we are talking about the principles of international humanitarian law. Yes, Dr. Hossein.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me again. It's always a pleasure to be here with you and with all our dear viewers
Yes.
of Nile TV International. Definitely, this is a very important topic, and as a matter of fact, I do think that it constitutes part and parcel of this series, which aims to highlight the nexus or the
Yes.
relationship between the international humanitarian law and the Islamic jurisprudence.
Yes. Dr. Hossein, when does resulting to combative war become permissible?
Yeah, this is, of course, a very timely and worthwhile question in this regard. And to answer it in a very clear and straightforward manner, it is only for repelling aggression and removing oppression. So the Quran in this regard is very clear that resorting or taking recourse to the combative jihad or carrying arms becomes only permissible in order to defend. So it is only for defensive purposes, but it is never for being aggressive or starting an aggression. And the verse in this regard in the Noble Quran is very clear, and that's the verse in which Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala clearly tells us in the Noble Quran, وَقَاتِلُوا فِي سَبِيلِ اللَّهِ الَّذِينَ يُقَاتِلُونَكُمْ وَلَا تَعْتَدُوا إِنَّ اللَّهَ لَا يُحِبُّ الْمُعْتَدِينَ.
So, sir, what about the question of abrogation?
Yeah, this is, of course, a very important question in this regard, because one of the most commonly asked questions in this regard by many people, both Muslims and non-Muslims, especially those who are interested in reading into the literature of the Islamic jurisprudence and the legal books of Islam, they always have this burning question of what about abrogation or nasakh or supersession. So to provide a very simple and clear answer in this regard, let's look into the wording of the verse itself in this regard and look at it from a rational point of view and from an intellectual perspective. We clearly see how the ending of the verse is إِنَّ اللَّهَ لَا يُحِبُّ الْمُعْتَدِينَ. So the meaning is, for indeed Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala does not love the transgressors, or those who transgress, or those who start an aggression. So logically speaking, it is not befitting for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and it is not conceivable to think that at certain times Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala would not love the transgressors, while at other times it is okay
Yes.
from the perspective of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to permit or to